The thing nobody gets right about the Satanic Panic is that there were two phases. First wave dirtbags, 1978 to 1985, they were victims of the panic. They never actually messed with the occult. Black Sabbath records, role-playing games, cutting gym class. It didn't make you a wizard. Second wave dirtbags, 1985 to 1992, however, we were created by the panic. We heard that heavy metal and D&D led to black magic. And, we couldn't wait to sign up. Of course, we got into Satanism, for like a week. Then we found a copy of the Magus at Walden's Books in the mall, followed by someone's older brother telling us why Jimmy Page bought Boleskin House. Suddenly kids who couldn't pass freshman English, they were trying to decipher Aleister Crowley. Magic's an oral tradition. Heard about Robert Anton Wilson from the Weirdos at the Record Shop. Austin Alsman Spare from the hippies who sold crystals in the flea market. We were in our senior year when we heard about the Chattering Storm. Now by then my core crew was Inga, Diz, Richard, and me. Inga got hired at the hippie shop and we would hang out there and visit her. That was how we heard about the storm. From Creepy Craig, one of the regulars. Craig was maybe 30. Way too excited to hang out with high schoolers. Anyway, he told us about the game, and when we were interested, he wrote down the directions with his off-kilter block letters. The instructions looked like a ransom note written by a third grader. Saturday nights were always a sleepover at Diz's house. His parents, they weren't big on rules, and we were able to keep all of our band gear in the basement, which became our rehearsal room, clubhouse, occult science lab. Scattered amongst Richard's drums and Inga's and mine's amps were the remains of dozens of seances, rituals, Ouija board sessions. Candles, sigils, and beer cans littered the place. And we weren't doing any of it with any real intention other than trying to scare ourselves. We fell asleep to slasher movies, we woke up to Slayer, so that was increasingly hard to do. The night that we summoned the Chattering Storm was the middle of January. There wasn't much else going on. Creepy Craig's directions were detailed. Too detailed. There was no way we were going to do all these steps. The entire first paragraph was rules. Burn sage in all four corners of the room. Pass. Draw 2 protective circles, 1 salt, 1 ash, no thank you. Red, yellow, blue, and white candles burning in the 4 sacred directions. Nope. Thing is, we had the stupid candles, but the thing about dirtbags or heads, heshers, burnouts, depending on your region, is if we wanted rules, we would have played sports. The one rule we followed was the music. The game needed instrumental music. We argued over whether to use Orion by Metallica or Transylvania by Iron Maiden. We settled on playing a demo of one of our very long original songs. I wasn't thrilled with the choice, as I secretly thought that the only thing our band had going for it was Inga's lyrics. Diz went first, sitting in a chair in the middle of the room, blindfolded. The rest of us sat in a semicircle around him. Diz did the singing chant, pitching his voice twice low, once high, then low again. We recited the same 4 words over and over. They looked vaguely Scandinavian written down, but spoken, they sounded like speaking backwards. According to Creepy Craig, and confirmed by some of the crystal shoppers, this should lead to the person in the chair automatically speaking in tongues, this demonic gibberish that should last 30 seconds tops. Well, that's not what happened. Diz's voice was still his, but it was like he found a different gear in his vocal cords. The first few words were gibberish, but then, in a clear, over-enunciated voice like an old-time radio announcer, he said, "The real reason Richard can't hang out on Mondays is because he goes to the church youth group. He confesses about the stuff he steals, including my landscaping money and Inga's delay pedal. We were supposed to keep chanting the whole time, but we sat there with our mouths open. By the time I finally got up and paused the stereo, Diz had moved on to what Inga did at camp. As soon as the music stopped, Diz was back to normal. And nobody was mad at him. We all just knew that wasn't him talking. We continued, like idiots. I went next. Same thing. Chair, blindfold, chanting. And then I went away. Where my mind used to be was a torrent of pure information. I could see my friends, not just them, but their secrets, their histories, the real them, not who they presented to me. I knew I was talking, but I also knew it wasn't me. I was part of something else, and it was delicious. Inga was next, and the storm sounded different through her. Her voice was high and clear, like a song. I don't remember what she said. I only know that it was cruel and beautiful, and for those few minutes, I was terrified of her. The face that I'd known since first grade and had a tiny crush on since fifth grade was unrecognizable. The set of her jaw, the way her lips moved, it wasn't Inga. Whatever she said, it broke Richard. He ran out of the room and out of our lives. He never spoke to any of us again. Monday morning, I had an oral report in Spanish class. Well, normally I'd blow it off, but I was trying to graduate, so I put AC/DC in my Walkman and psyched myself up. I hate it when people look at me, which should have been a red flag considering I was planning on being a rock star, but I wasn't big on thinking things through. As I stood up to face the class, the normal panic wasn't there, and in the back of my head, the chords from Dirty Deeds kept playing. Something like adrenaline flooded my body, and I felt good. I didn't have to think about the words, they just flowed out in perfect, accented Spanish. I explained how Mexico is a country where they love soccer and boxing and dancing, and how our teacher recently relapsed after 3 years sober. The adrenaline was gone, and I was terrified. I tried to see my friends. I found Richard first. His locker was right by mine, but he wouldn't talk to me. The look on his face made my blood run cold. He was scared of me. I saw Diz in the cafeteria. He wasn't at the dirtbag table. Somehow he was at the center of attention at the wrestling team table. Whatever he was saying must have been fascinating. They were laughing. They were hanging on his every word. Seeing Diz as the newly crowned jock mayor freaked me out more than getting possessed in Spanish. I headed for the girls' gym. It was 5th period, so Inga should be there. And in the hallway, 2 girls that were sort of in our social circle were beating the crap out of each other. Motley Crue t-shirts were torn, hairsprayed bangs were ripped. Inga was in the crowd, with a smile that I didn't recognize. My first thought was, she did this. My next thought was, it did this. A thought in a voice that wasn't mine said, we did this. I left school out the emergency door, my heart racing. I headed home. I could barely drive from the adrenaline shaking my hands. I was scared of my only friends. I was scared of how good I felt Saturday night. Most of all, I was scared of how that voice started murmuring in my head the second I turned on the car stereo. It was like it was feeding off the music. feeding off how the music made me feel. Mom was in the kitchen when I got home, and it took all my willpower not to tell her all the dirty details I suddenly knew about Dad. The storm wanted to be heard. I kept my head down and I made it into my room barely. I tried to clear my head with the only thing that ever worked. I plugged my guitar in and forced myself to practice scales for 20 minutes before opening up and improvising. My head didn't clear. It filled up again. The storm came calling again, and suddenly I was in it. I'm Apollo and Delphi. They praised me, and I gave them music and prophecy. I am Brigand, granting poetry to the Celts, the banks of the river Borrow. I am a man 5 years from now, playing to a stadium of adoring fans. This is the future if I just relax and... Trying to snap out of it. Like a combination of sleep paralysis and amnesia, my mind didn't want to remember who I am. Finally, one last burst of sheer panic jolted my body, and I shook it out of my mind. I forced myself to remember. I'm not a god. Gods don't have back acne. I'm a 17-year-old dirtbag who'll be taking Spanish in summer school. I never picked up my guitar again. It probably looked from the outside like we just drifted apart over the next few months before graduation. It wasn't gradual on my part. I loved my friends, but I didn't recognize them. The look in Diz's eyes scared the hell out of me. The look in Inga's eyes broke my heart. Richard never spoke with us again. I think he's a priest now. Diz started this conspiracy theory show on public access television when he was 18. I mean, I watched it once. It wasn't his voice. It was the storm. I assume it still is, but I can't bring myself to listen, even though he's tough to avoid these days. Inga never played stadiums, but she sold her first song right after high school and hasn't stopped quietly working in the industry since. She has a place in Malibu on the cliffs. I never heard her songs. Or anyone else's. I mean, that's what it cost me. Not only my friends, but music. All of it. I won't turn on a radio. Even now, I won't risk opening myself up to that feeling again, ever. I listen to audiobooks in the car. It isn't just the satanic panic that people got wrong. Actual deeds with the devil, those aren't what they tell you. You don't lose your soul when you die. You lose it once you're willing to lose it. That person playing the stadium would look like me, but I'd be gone. Like my friend. Lost in the chattering storm. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I just wanted to tell you thank you so much for watching tonight's video, or by listening to tonight's episode of the podcast. I know I haven't had as many updates as I would like to have on the channel lately, and things just kind of get really hard with shit that's happening in my family. But hey, I wanted to say thank you so much for being around, thank you so much for still supporting me and for coming back to listen to new stories. If you guys want to get updates anytime that I do upload, then please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Or if you're listening over a podcast, I think it's still a subscribe button or a follow button or whatever happened. Those happen to be. As always, I want to give a very big thank you to everybody out there on patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta. a very, very big thank you to everybody there, and to especially Jordan Humble, Diana Kraus, King Crab, Calcifer 420, Veronica Lynn Lopez, Marlon Chavez, Azazel 66603, Ethan Leon, Polaris Prospect X, Blake Rattler, Viceroy Scorn, Samara Lynn, Disciple, SullyMan, Brandon Mendoza, BrimstonePandemonium, Caltuna, William Wellington, Scruffy the Janitor, Brenna Crow, LaQueda, Canizales, Smiley the Psychotic, Dante Kinkade, SimbasBloodyMojo, CursepoxPrimarch, M, Jettis Pet, Clonable, J Kearns, Mike, himbojerry, CrusaderChocobo, Remember the Sun, Estebean, Hour Minute Second Time, Seclude, Salty Surprise, Red Shadowcat, Turtleman, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Voice of Sand, Ficomel, Melted Lake, Tully Sue, Croconut 509, Stricken, Freddy Krueger, Hades Nephew, Tommy Walters, Acid System, Sky Harbor, Nico Kyle, Tristan Pelton, Ball Arms the Rat, The Ginger Bros, Daniel Polson, and Corey Kinchin. To all of you guys there, everybody who's down in the description, and everybody who can just give $1, I want to say thank you to you guys. And if you would like to join this list in the description, head over to patreon.com/MrCreepy. And if you would like to join this list in the description, sweet dreams.